Have you noticed how exhausting it is to be in a relationship with a covert narcissist? Of course you have. In these relationships, we expend so much emotional, mental, and sometimes even physical energy just trying to keep things feeling normal. But it never works, does it? So if you're at the point right now where you feel exhausted just even thinking about this relationship, I want you to know that there are some really key reasons for this, and it's not you. In this video, we're going to explore 6 of the many reasons why it is so exhausting to be in a relationship with a covert narcissist. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Common Ego community. My name is Christina, and today we're covering 6 reasons why it's so exhausting to be in a relationship with a covert narcissist. But first, I want to send a big welcome to the new subscribers and a thank you to those who have been here from day 1. And if you aren't already subscribed, you may want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And now let's jump into the 6 reasons why it's so exhausting to be in this type of relationship or any type of relationship with a covert narcissist. There are going to be lies and omissions. If you're in a romantic relationship with a covert narcissist, there's almost always, not always, but very, very often, there's going to be cheating. Lies and cheating in a relationship go hand in hand. But even if we're not talking about cheating, it could be anything really. It could be anything in the romantic relationship. It could be a family relationship where somebody's keeping something from you, or even at work. But here's the deal. So many of us want to see the good in people. So when we meet this person, a covert narcissist who appears very nice and probably almost sheepish, in the beginning, we want to see the good in them. So when we see these things happening, when we see the lies and the omissions of truth, especially if we don't have rock solid evidence, we want to believe their story, even though our intuition is telling us something different. And this is especially true in a romantic relationship. No one ever wants to believe their partner is cheating or lying to them. When somebody tells you something that doesn't make sense and you want to believe them, you may come up with things to augment their story. You may add to it. Okay, well, that doesn't completely make sense, but let me fill in the blanks with something that does make sense. You spend a lot of mental energy trying to figure out, 1, can I find proof if this person is lying? Or 2, can I convince myself that this person is not lying? So the lies and omissions are going to cause some level of exhaustion in these relationships. I would imagine it would be exhausting for the liar too, but somehow they don't really seem to care about that. Okay, so the second reason why a relationship with a covert narcissist is so incredibly exhausting is that these people are often referred to as wolves in sheep's clothing. And this term applies so often because covert narcissists are abusive. They are emotionally abusive people. But they don't appear that way. They appear to be kind in many cases when you first meet them. Maybe even shy or insecure or awkward. And they don't seem like the type of people who would actually be abusive. This person who I think is a nice person said something that really hurt my feelings. He or she said it was a joke, so I guess I should believe it, even though it doesn't feel like it was a joke. Or, you know, maybe this person was having a bad day. The intention seemed clear, but it must have been me. I must have taken it. Let me just give this person the benefit of the doubt. And then after a while, it kind of just becomes the way things are. Okay, well, this person just does that sometimes. So we choose to focus on the good and the niceness that we see in these people, and sort of a gloss over the other stuff. And the problem with that is we don't realize how that other stuff accumulates over time. And it can really tear down a person's self-esteem and sense of self-worth. I think this is the one you've been waiting for. Number 3 is gaslighting. Gaslighting is incredibly exhausting. And if you've been in a relationship with a covert narcissist, I know you've been through it. Gaslighting is a term that describes any tactics that an abuser may use to make their target feel like they're crazy or question themselves. So it might be lying, it might be blame shifting, it might be outright calling somebody crazy, or they may use what people often refer to as the word salad technique, where they run circles around the topic in the conversation to make you forget what you were actually talking about. Then you end up in this conversation that just doesn't even make sense anymore. And the end result is you spend a lot of energy trying to figure out, okay, how did we get here and what actually was the point I was trying to make? And you end up starting to feel crazy unless you're really familiar with this technique and you could see it happening. The fifth reason why these relationships are exhausting is that narcissistic injuries are incredibly common and confusing. You could be talking to a narcissist and just having a regular conversation and not realize that you're causing a narcissistic injury, or maybe you do something that causes them to freak out, and it's something that you would never expect somebody to freak out about. You know, it's like maybe you could understand an emotional reaction, but not to that level. So they just explode, and this happens a lot with covert narcissists. You'll see anger, and sometimes it's not always in the form of screaming. Sometimes it's silent treatment or whatever their go-to move is when they're very, very angry. But you're just left trying to figure it out. And that's another thing. Silent treatment in general is exhausting because the other person is shutting you out. They're not telling you what's wrong. So you know you've upset them, but you've got to figure it out on your own. In a relationship with a covert narcissist, there's constant triangulation. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a romantic partnership or if it's a family relationship or even a work relationship. These people are pinning other people against you in some way. And they might even be making it seem like other people have a status that is higher than you in their eyes. And what this does is it makes you feel like you have to compete. You have to be good enough. You have to be better. But that's not reality. So in the covert narcissist's eyes, you're probably not any better or worse than anyone else. It's just an abusive tactic that makes you feel less than. And anytime you're expending energy trying to prove your own worth, you're going to feel exhausted. It is incredibly exhausting, and it always ends up making you look and feel worse in the end. The more you try to prove your worth, the worse you'll feel. But it seems to come naturally in these relationships because of the triangulation. So the last reason why these relationships are so exhausting is more targeted towards the romantic relationship with a covert narcissist. And it's that you have lack of closure after the relationship ends. Now this could also apply to a friendship. It could be a friend that just cuts you off without any warning or reason, or it could be a family member too. But in relationships and romantic relationships with covert narcissists, they often follow that same pattern of love bombing, devaluing, discarding, and sometimes hoovering. So you may go through it. If you're with a narcissist who discards and hoovers again and again and again, the lack of closure can be downright maddening. So when we're in any relationship, when it ends, we want to know why. Did I do something wrong? Did I hurt you in some way? Is it just that you don't have time for this right now? What is going on? Why are we not friends anymore? Why can we no longer see each other? But in a relationship with a covert narcissist, you will almost never get that closure. Just like you've been kind of scratching your head the whole relationship, like what's really going on here? When it ends in the exact same way. Covert narcissists are notorious for ending relationships for the weirdest reasons, or citing weird reasons to end a relationship. So you might be in a relationship with somebody who knows something about you, and maybe that's something they loved about you. Maybe you're very loud and boisterous, and in the beginning they just adored that about you. You always speak your mind. I love that. And then you're in a relationship for 6 months, a year, and suddenly that's the reason why they can't be around you. Or maybe it's your intelligence or your religious faith and they love that about you, but then suddenly it's a reason why they can't be with you anymore. Huh? How did that happen? How did we get from point A to point B? It doesn't make sense from a logical perspective. Another thing I've heard often is that a covert narcissist may cite something ridiculous and superficial. So let's say you've been in a relationship with somebody for years, and suddenly they say something like, you know, you're okay, but I really want to be in a relationship with somebody who likes to run. You know, somebody who really, like, I want a running partner. I want somebody to run with every day. You've never been a runner, and it's never been a problem. And it could be anything, that's just an example. But the odd superficial reasoning that you encounter at the end of this relationship is very common. So naturally, after the relationship ends, you're left wondering what's really going on. And you're trying to piece the puzzle together. Like, okay, well, is there another person in the picture? And with a covert narcissist, you probably already suspect that there was. So you end up thinking, well, maybe they chose that person over me. Or maybe this, or maybe that. Maybe it was this thing that I did, or that thing. Before you learn about covert narcissism, of course. But you spend so much energy focused on the reason why and why there's no closure. It feels like there's just this open loop that you have to close, but you can't, because you weren't the one to make the decision. The covert narcissist was. And so this is another reason why, unfortunately, before we get wise to the game, that we're ready and willing to listen to all the reasons that the narcissist will come back with during a hoover, because we don't have that closure and we're still looking for it. And not all covert narcissists hoover, but if you're with one who does and you've been through this before, that's another reason why you might feel like you don't have closure. Because, okay, now it's over today. Will it be over tomorrow? Will this person come back? And you might be thinking, well, I don't want them to come back. But at the same time, you don't know when it's gonna happen or where or how. So it's kind of always hanging over your head. So as you can see, with the lack of closure is just all over these relationships. And it's so emotionally draining. Breakups in general are emotionally draining. But when you don't know why or what's really going on, it can take a lot out of you. Okay, so those are my 6 reasons why a relationship with a covert narcissist is so emotionally, mentally, physically draining, downright exhausting. Now, I know those aren't the only reasons. There are probably tons more. And if you can think of any, let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, or if you find relationships with covert narcissists to be especially exhausting, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're not already subscribed and want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified whenever I post new videos. And I'll see you next time.